नहीं, I don't know, वो मुझे इसलिए वो रंजीत भाई करते उनको पता होगा, I don't have information. हाँ, Tuesday, so you know I'm on air right now. मेरा air का program आ रहा है. Okay, thank you. You all set? Yeah, we're ready. Okay, guys, we are starting now. Thank you so much, guys. Just you know, a lot of people are joined in already.
चॉइस ऑप्टिकल तो ਤੁਸੀਂ ਅਰਮਾਨੀ, ਗੁੱਚੀ, ਲਾਕੋਸਟ, ਰੀਬੈਕ ਅਤੇ ਹੋਰ ਸਾਰੇ ਬ੍ਰਾਂਡ ਨੇਮ ਗਲਾसेस ਲੈ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ।
चॉइस ऑप्टिकल टीडी बैंक के लागे 10577 कैसलेज बुलेवार्ड नॉर्थ ईस्ट कैलगरी। फोन नंबर 4035683937 403 568 3937 चॉइस ऑप्टिकल।
जी अस्सलाम नमस्ते सत श्री अकाल आदाब अली मदद। मैं आपका होस्ट जलाल आपकी खिदमत में हाजिर। आप सब सुन रहे हैं, देख रहे हैं सलाम नमस्ते कैलगरी रेडियो शो ऑन रेडियो सोर्स संगम इन कैलगरी। अगर आप एडमंटन में हैं तो रेडियो सोर्स अगर इन एडमंटन, या तो आप दुनिया के किसी भी कोने में हमें फेसबुक पर देख रहे हैं या तो पर यूट्यूब पर लाइव देख रहे हैं, आप सबका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। वी लव यू ऑल, थैंक यू सो मच गाइस फॉर ज्वाइनिंग अस एंड फॉर ऑल योर सपोर्ट यू डू लाइक ऑलमोस्ट एवरी वीक। यू गाइस आर विद अस ऑन एवरी ट्यूसडे एंड यू नो आज का दिन आपको जैसे पता है कि आज के साथ नॉर्मली जो है सलमा जदावी मेरे साथ होती हैं, लेकिन उनको जो है परसों रात में उनको न्यूज़ मिली कि उनकी मदर की डेथ हो गई है, तो उनको जाना पड़ा आउट ऑफ टाउन। सो शी इज़ नॉट हियर विथ मी एंड शी विल बी मिस टुडे बिकॉज यू नो दिस इज़ वन ऑफ द शो शी वॉज रियली लुकिंग फॉरवर्ड टू इट कि यू नो व्हेन Ameer Keshavjee is here, so we'll ask so many so many questions for all the of course for our listeners and for our viewers for for the benefits regarding their kids education and universities and everything. लेकिन आपको जैसे पता है कि being a radio host for last 7 years, we are just human just like you guys. लेकिन हमारे भी जो है of course family है, हमारे पास भी काम है और what we do just our passion. लेकिन हमारे पीछे ऑफ कोर्स वी हैव सम प्रॉब्लम्स टू, और अपना फैमिली के अभी आपको जैसे सलमा जी का हो गया कि उनकी मदर की डेथ हो गई, तो फिर एट द एंड ऑफ द डे वी आर ह्यूमन एज वेल एंड वी डू अवर बेस्ट व्हेन वी आर ऑन द स्क्रीन और व्हेन वी आर डूइंग अ लाइव शो। सो वी डू अवर बेस्ट ताकि आपको कोई ऐसा कुछ दिखे नहीं, या तो आपको कोई ऐसा कुछ आपको जो है खामी ना जो है इसमें नज़र आए कि वी हैव एनी प्रॉब्लम और जो हमारे दिमाग में क्या चल रहा है उस वक्त। लेकिन जो होने वाला होता है वो तो होता है, और अपना वी प्रे फॉर सलमाज मदर फॉर हर इटर्नल पीस एंड हम दुआ करते हैं कि अल्लाह उनको जो है अपने जो है ज़मान में रखे और उनको जो है अच्छी से अच्छी जगह में रखे। तो चले आज का शो हमारा आज बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट शो है, जैसे हम जो एडवर्टाइज करते आ रहे हैं कि टुडेज शो इज गोना बी स्पेशल फॉर आवर स्टूडेंट्स एंड देन all the parents, the one who are thinking about their kids education for the higher universities or higher education, or you can say the Harvard University, or you can say the McGill University, if it's possible. Yes, it is possible, and we'll find out all the questions, all the answers today from our expert Mr. Ameer Keshavjee. And Ameer bhai, thank you so much for coming to our studio.
It's a great pleasure to be here, Jalal.
No, I mean, thanks for coming. And of course, we've been talking for a while to bring you on our show, and finally it happens. And thank you so much. And so I want to thanks to our student, like our panel as well. Nabilah is here, and of course Taheer is here. Taheer, you can have a mic now. Taheer as well. And I believe we are live on Instagram as well.
Instagram. Yeah.
Okay, we are live on Facebook, live on YouTube, and Instagram as well, guys. हमारी तरक्की हो गई है on Instagram as well. So you won't miss, hopefully you won't miss any details, whatever we will give it to you. And plus, if you have any question, you can send the question through the live feed on the Facebook, and once you do it, I will see on my tablet, then I will ask the question to Mr. Ameer, so then you won't lose so then we won't lose anything, because we want to cover each and every point whatever we can. So why don't we start with our special guest, Mr. Ameer Keshavjee. First of all, okay, tell us about yourself, please.
Well, I have a one-man independent voluntary program.
Uh-huh.
And the focus of this program is to ensure that all those students, young boys and girls,
Yeah.
that I come in touch with, that we have an effective plan of action
Mm-hmm.
so they can embark on a post-secondary education on a needs-blind basis.
Right.
Now, one of the questions I got recently is what's needs-blind?
Mm-hmm.
Needs-blind is that the student, the young boy or girl, chooses the university of his or her choice.
Right.
An Ivy League university, any other post-secondary institution, and not to have any worries about financial assistance.
Why is that?
Now, one of the biggest problems that we have with our children, and one of the reasons why they don't do so well in high school,
Mm-hmm.
is that they have been socialized and it's been internalized that if their family doesn't have the money, they are not going to be able to go to a fine university.
Right.
Now, some of these universities are very expensive,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't say that every student needs to go, for instance, to an Ivy League school.
Mm-hmm.
But we know that an Ivy League school is minimum of $75,000 a year.
Right.
So for a whole degree, you're looking at $300,000.
Right.
Many would say, well, I can go to a college in my hometown. Nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
Colleges are geared for technological preparation for the workforce, and they're wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Many of us yearn to go to universities.
Right.
And it is because that we feel that we do not have the financial backing or background,
Mm-hmm.
we are not going to be able to go, so we lose our morale and our courage very early
Right.
in high school.
Right.
Now, these are the students that need to be told
Mm-hmm.
that money is not the first of their problems. The first of the problems is to get into a fine university.
That's right.
You got to have the marks. You got to have the prerequisites.
Right.
You got to write the SATs and the ACTs. You got to get the recommenders. You got to prepare a powerful resume. You've got to write the essays that major fine universities of the world, in many parts of the world, require well-written essays.
Mm-hmm.
And just to give you an example how competitive this whole process is,
Yeah.
is that Harvard, for instance, gets 36,000 applicants for 1,800 spots. So for every 20 students that apply,
Okay.
only one gets in.
Wow, 36,000
Yes,
for
On
only
average.
1,800.
1,800 undergrad
Wow.
positions. Now, that is not to say this is impossible.
Right.
It's very possible.
Mm-hmm.
There are numerous students of all colors, races, and creeds that I have met over 25 years. Many have gone to Ivy League schools. And if I am to say that every one of those students received a full scholarship, that would not be true.
Mm-hmm.
Some received half, some received 3/4, some received a quarter. Well, a half of $75,000 is not
It's
small
a lot of
change.
money.
It's
Yeah,
a lot
that's
of
right.
money.
Yeah.
But even then, they have to look for the other scholarship, the other funding for completing the first year at least.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I need to make it quite clear that there's a difference between the different kinds of funding.
Mm-hmm.
Scholarships are free. Bursaries are free.
Mm-hmm.
Student loans are exactly what they say, loans.
Loans. Yeah.
They are repayable.
Mm-hmm.
And then further on in graduate school, postgraduate school, you get grants, and those are free.
Mm-hmm.
Now the process is so daunting,
Mm-hmm.
but it's very simple. And I have a plan of action here which shows
Yes.
a student in grade 10, grade 11, grade 12 on how to embark on this process to apply to the university of your choice,
Mm-hmm.
the post-secondary institution of your choice. And I'm not here to dictate which university you should go to,
That's right.
but you should research the university you want to go to.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say basically research the program you want to pursue and see which university offers that program.
True.
Now, Jalal, I would say that in a knowledge-based society,
Mm-hmm.
the only basic ingredient is knowledge.
Knowledge. Yeah.
And my endeavor is to make, through my individual voluntary program,
Mm-hmm.
I want to make free universal post-secondary education a human right. Because without adequate post-secondary education, our young men and women are not going to be able to survive in the new world with artificial intelligence.
True.
With artificial intelligence that we're battling against, or we have to battle against.
Right.
We must have basic post-secondary education to at least, I believe, to survive.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these were the questions that, what are the prerequisite tests to get into a good school?
Mm-hmm.
And one normally talks about, let's go to Ivy League schools. Parents have a deep desire and ambition to see that their children go to Ivy League schools. Now, the Ivy League schools, there are only 8 schools.
That's right.
But there are second-tier American universities, about 100 of them, which are equally fine universities. But these are all costly universities.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to get the funding. But I want to reiterate
Mm-hmm.
that getting the funding and the money is not the first of our problems. It is probably, in the final analysis, not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is, do our children have the requisite marks,
Exactly.
the
That's right.
prerequisite tests,
Yeah.
the prerequisite extracurricular activity, the voluntary service that goes with the programs that we want to pursue?
Mm.
And these are the things which are required for admissions to fine universities, but also you'll find on this road to post-secondary education and the pursuit of excellence, funding comes in because there are $93 billion of scholarship funds in North America. And not all of them have been applied for. Actually, only 37% on an average are being applied for every year, and 63% reverts back to government.
So you said 93 billion
With a B.
with a B.
$93 billion
Wow.
in all disciplines. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I have a book that has 2,600 scholarship trust funds and their names
Wow.
and the focuses of those trust funds. Now we have to, in all these applications, for Ivy League schools, for fine universities, for the best universities in every country, we need to fill in these application forms. And where I think that our young boys and girls need the highest amount of assistance is in completing the forms and the essay questions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, most of these applications have 1 or 2 or 3 essays that one has to write, and the topics have been supplied by the university where you apply.
Yeah.
Now, these, we must remember that particularly, you know, in terms of Harvard, for instance, you're competing your essays with 36,000
Wow. Yes.
students and their essays.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So these have to be written in very beautiful, strong, crisp, powerful language.
Mm.
And I find that this is where a lot of assistance is required. Now, the plan of action I have is no rocket science.
Mm-hmm.
It's an ordinary plan of action, but when we talk to young boys and girls, the first thing they'll ask is,
Yeah.
well, you know, it's easy to talk the talk.
Yes.
Now tell us, how do we start?
Mm-hmm.
We go home tonight, and what is the first thing we do?
That's right.
And so I have a plan of action. So Jalal, if you agree,
Yes.
I want to go over the plan of action,
Yes.
and then we can ask the questions that come out of that.
Yeah.
But before I do that, I
Mhm.
want to point out to the female students.
Okay.
Now, most of the fear is when I meet them, they say, will we get as much funding as male students
Okay.
from the scholarship trust funds,
Uh-huh.
from the universities where we apply? And I insist to them that, in my opinion, perhaps there's more funding for women
Then male.
because the women funding in certain cases is exclusively for women,
Okay.
and males cannot apply to those.
Right.
Now, some of the scholarships that I have identified where female students have been highly, highly successful, and I'll just name them for you.
Yes, please.
One is Zonta, the other is the American Federation of University Women, the Sir James Lougheed Scholarship through the Alberta Heritage Trust Fund,
Mm-hmm.
the Canadian Federation of University Women,
Mm-hmm.
Loran, Helena Rubinstein Scholarship, the Coca-Cola Scholarship headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States, the Liz Claiborne Scholarship, the Avon Scholarship, and also the scholarships that are earmarked for new students at the very university where you apply and are accepted as a student.
Mm-hmm.
Now I find that, as mentioned in my previous talk,
Yeah.
that most scholarships are available very much more easier in the second year and thenceforward.
Right.
Now I think I'll just outline the plan of action.
Yes, please.
The first thing I would say to students is prepare a powerful resume.
Okay.
See that your resume embodies all the achievements that you have had from grade school right up to grade 12, the end of senior high school.
Mm-hmm.
Keep the format very, very simple when we make a resume. And the limit of your resume, in my opinion, for an effective resume is to be 2 pages maximum.
2 pages maximum.
Maximum,
Wow.
because particularly in universities that have a high application rate,
Mm-hmm.
for people to read a resume throughout is not that very simple.
True.
So we have to prepare a resume in its physical format also to be pleasing to the eye, to the reader.
Exactly, because if it's only 2 pages, you have, so that words, so that has to be very attractive.
Attractive, very comprehensive,
Comprehensive, in
very
detail,
concise,
isn't
and
it? Yeah.
detailed. They have to be very
Wow.
crisp. And I have a sample resume that a boy some years ago applied to Harvard, and the alumni who interviewed him mentioned to him it's a very beautiful resume. So he's allowed me to make a sample of that. So if anybody needs it, I don't mind sharing.
Wow.
that.
Nice.
So we can do that. But the resume is actually the list of your achievements.
Mm-hmm.
But it is not the only place where you can tell all
Mm-hmm.
about your achievements.
Okay.
It is not the only place where you can say what you have done, what are your ambitions.
Mm-hmm.
There are other places on the application which allow you an opportunity to do that further.
Mm-hmm.
And the essays, the subject topics that you answer,
Right.
those are an opportunity to give an exact picture of your brain as to what your future ambitions are.
Mm-hmm.
The whole process is very simple.
Mm-hmm.
A student needs only to ask himself or herself, where am I today? Where do I wish to go?
Mm-hmm.
And how do I propose to get there?
Right.
Very simple.
Mm-hmm.
But that simple formula requires a lot of preparation,
No doubt.
and it's not impossible,
Yeah.
but we need to meet deadlines. We need to do preparation well in advance of the time of applying to universities.
Mm-hmm.
And like the old saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child.
True.
And I repeat that, and I say this is a constructive engagement
Mm-hmm.
between parents, teachers, the counselor, and the student. We all need to be passionately engaged in this process, and then it will become a wonderful experience,
Mm-hmm.
applying particularly to the finest universities in the world.
Right.
The second is, on this plan of action, I would say maintain marks at above 92% on an average. Now, maintaining these marks at 92% average means that the 5 core subjects, English, math, chemistry, biology, and physics, and sometimes social studies, if you maintain a very high standard and keep your academic standing very high, it become an easy process to apply to the university of your choice. And that would also enable you, or enable one, to get the requisite funding to go to the university of your choice. So maintaining high marks, I believe, is a prerequisite. There's no substitute for that. Let's put it that way.
Right. True.
There's no substitute
Yeah.
for that. The third prerequisite, particularly for the United States universities, is that we need to write the prerequisite tests,
Right.
which are independent tests, which don't belong to any particular university.
Right.
And those are the SAT 1, the SAT 2,
Two. Yeah.
which are one common complementary set of tests, and the other is the ACT. Now, I believe the ACT is now beginning to get widely accepted. Before SAT 1 and SAT 2 were a definite prerequisite. And we need to get very high scores on those two international tests.
Okay. What is the difference between these two and the other tests? You know, the one you do.
Well, the SAT 1, SAT 2, quite traditionally, the SAT 1 becomes an IQ test,
Okay.
which tests your IQ in your subjects, particularly up to the first semester of grade 11, I would say.
Okay.
But the SAT 2
Yeah.
becomes subject specific,
Okay.
and they offer you to take 3 subjects out of 6 subjects.
Mm-hmm.
And English and math, I would say, is always essential to take.
Right.
And then you choose a third subject,
Mhm.
and that's where you do SAT 2. The ACT is a post-secondary institution college
Mhm.
admissions test,
Yeah.
and that too has all the prerequisites. Now these tests, in my assessment, are tests that assess the student before getting to the gate of the application process.
Okay. Yeah.
So those scores are very significant.
Mm-hmm.
We need to score highly. In the SAT 1, SAT 2, you can write as many times as you want to, provided that you meet the deadlines and that you meet the deadlines of your early applications to the fine universities,
Mm-hmm.
or even the ordinary deadlines.
Yeah, true.
But the SATs and the ACT are written on an international date, and we don't dictate when we want to write them.
Mm-hmm.
There are these dates where after you register, they give you a date and you have to present yourself to write those tests.
Mm-hmm.
Now the average American student, I've been told, writes the SAT tests 1 and 2, 3 or 4 times in their lifetime, because it's a definite prerequisite in their universities. Canada doesn't need that.
Mm-hmm.
And many other places in the world don't need these SAT 1, SAT 12 tests.
Mm-hmm.
But it wouldn't harm us to write these. And the only way to get accustomed to how these tests are written, some of them are time and motion,
Right.
is that get sample tests from the library and do the practice
Okay.
on your own
Mm-hmm.
on a Saturday afternoon. Take 2 or 3 hours, do a practice, and you'll get the answers at the back of the books.
Yeah.
So that is one easy way of preparing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But there are certain business organizations that offer the preparatory tests, and there is a fee for those.
That's right. Yeah. There's a fee. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now the third thing I would say is voluntary service.
Yes.
Voluntary service is a basic necessity for applications to fine universities, because it's through voluntary service that your humanistic personality comes out.
True. Yeah.
Particularly when applying for scholarships, people that give the scholarships, I think, and this is something I myself would want if I had a scholarship,
Yeah.
is to see whether this student is prepared to share his or her knowledge,
True.
his or her mental, intellectual wealth
Right.
with fellow human beings. And it's only through voluntary service
True.
that we are able to assess. Now, in my humble opinion, I would say voluntary service at hospitals, voluntary service at food banks, and voluntary service at senior homes,
Yes.
where we can get documentation authenticating your service and the number of hours, are the areas where we could render these services. Eyesight International is another one,
Mm-hmm.
where a lot of students even embark on that voluntary service while at high school. And there are other avenues, agencies and NGOs which have dedicated themselves particularly to the alleviation of poverty in the world, such as the Aga Khan Foundation
Right.
and the Aga Khan Development Network. And the World Partnership Walk of the Aga Khan Foundation is a wonderful, wonderful area where we render service and raise money for poverty alleviation.
Right.
Could see us in good stead in our application process. Now, number 5 would be extracurricular activity, and I would say in extracurricular activity, I have noted down that students in debate and oratory, students that become presidents, secretaries, or treasurers of their student councils, class valedictorians, yearbook editors, sports and athletics, and the school band. Now, recently there's been a lot of emphasis, and particularly the books that are written on left brain and right brain activity and training. Music plays a very important part.
Yeah.
And we've always been told, even since my school days, that have at least knowledge of music, either sing or play at least one musical instrument,
Yeah.
and excel at that.
Mhm.
Now that will see us in very, very good stead in the application process, as well as in our search for funding.
Mhm.
Now, letters of recommendation is very important. We've got to cultivate letters of recommendation, because when you come to the application process, we find that if you go to recommenders, they don't know you.
True.
They don't know much about you. They may know your family. Normally, you go for letters of recommendation to your lawyer, to your dentist, to your doctor,
Right.
to your member of parliament, to a leader in your community, a priest in the church, people who know you. Primarily, letters of recommendation should come from the principal of a school and a counselor or the teacher of one of your subjects. Now, those letters are very important, but when you go for the application process and you finished your schooling 1 year, 2 years ago, or for grad school, you may have finished your schooling 5 years ago,
Yeah.
it's very difficult for teachers and counselors to remember who
True.
you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
In which case, I think a powerful resume would bring some degree of recollection about who you have been as a student
Wow.
in their school.
Yeah.
But this is very, very important, because most universities need at least 2 letters of recommendation, if not 3. And I would say if we can cultivate 6 recommenders so that we can alternate 2 each, that will see us in good stead, because when you require letters of recommendation, speed is of necessity.
Mhm.
When you're applying, you're hitting deadlines, and the letters of recommendation could take time.
Right.
Now, I've prepared a template letter of recommendation when I went to speak in India, and I could share that with students.
Mhm.
It has the necessary ingredients of what a letter of recommendation is supposed to be. But after question time, we'll talk about
Yes.
those ingredients.
Yes.
Now, we need to write good, strong essays.
Mhm.
And people ask me, well, how do we do that? Because I'm not a good writer.
Right.
My English mark's not that high, and I'm going to need some help. So I say that particularly from junior high, middle school level, we should teach our children to read.
To read.
And
Wow.
when they ask me, what 3 pieces of advice would you give?
Uh-huh.
And I would say read, read,
Read
and read.
Wow.
And the other thing, we need to be apprised of the situation around the world.
Mhm.
So our students need to watch world news. And I'd say BBC,
Yeah.
CBC, CNN,
CNN, yeah.
MSNBC, whatever you want to watch, see that our students, because in the interview process, I found when I get feedback from students, and they say the interviewer asked me, what do you think of the world situation today?
Yeah.
And they ask specific questions about specific countries. And they ask specific questions about how countries would handle some of these matters. And they want to know how you would handle these. And not many years ago, there was a contest, a competition in Canada. They brought, what I do if I were Prime Minister? They had to write a 500-word essay. Now this challenges the mind of a young boy or girl who feel that the world is at their feet,
Yeah.
and they can grapple with any problem that comes up, and it's a wonderful feeling. It's a very positive feeling. But I think that many of these aspects of the application process that I've mentioned create in us a need for critical thinking. Critical thought is of very, very, very vital importance. Because when you go to some of the finer universities, it is from your essay, which is the actual photograph of your brain, that the reader begins to feel, perhaps, that you are a mover and shaker,
Yeah.
and that our university needs you and will give you admission immediately. Now that comes with powerful essay writing. Now, it's not that you won't get any help from anybody else. There's a lot of help from your school teachers, your counselors, and your colleagues at school. But I would say to cultivate that habit of reading and watching the news on world events is very vital in the application process when you get to it, and particularly in the interview process. And I would say apply to the universities of your choice, but apply to at least 5 Canadian universities after grade 12. And I would say apply to some Ivy League schools, and I would say apply to some powerful international universities in other countries of the world. And my final advice on this would be apply on time.
Apply on time.
Yes.
Yes.
Don't miss the deadlines, because everything else is secondary once you meet the application process.
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of students, of course, like people like us, they wait till the deadline because they want to make sure everything is right. We have everything lined up, or we check 2-3 times, or we got the letters and everything. So let's say the deadline is the 31st January. So how soon we should submit our applications?
Well, Ivy League applications, early applications, November 1st.
For
Regular.
early, yes.
Regular is about 15th of December or end of December. Canadian universities are open for application in the early part of the new year. So we have to meet those.
Yeah.
Now, Canadian universities, Canadian students find it very easy to apply to Canadian universities because the application process is not that rigorous. Just recently, I find that some universities ask for a 100-word essay or a 200-word essay. Never used to be the case before.
Okay.
You just submitted your high school transcripts,
Yeah.
and you applied and, sent in a resume.
Right.
Now, coming back to resume, excuse me.
Yeah.
Coming back to the resume, I always add a portion right at the beginning of the resume, after your name and address, called career objectives.
Okay.
Not absolutely essential. Don't see it on many resumes. But I believe that makes it very easy for the selections bodies or the people that handle selections at the universities
Yeah.
to actually get a feel for and of who you are
True.
and what type of a journey you wish to undertake in your post-secondary education. And I normally, as a career objective, I normally say that I wish to acquire the requisite skills and the requisite knowledge of how to study further at post-secondary institutions, to get the knowledge on how I could better myself in the field and focus of study that I am undertaking. And this I am doing through extracurricular activity and through my knowledge of the universities where I'm applying.
Yeah.
Now, if you put a career objective of what you want to be and how you wish to follow that, whether it's a medical profession, the legal profession, going to dentistry, or you want to go into international affairs, we must show in the career objective how you propose to get there and through which institutions. And very, very quickly, in a matter of 4 or 5 lines, indicate how you are being prepared for this journey.
True. Nabila and Tahir. Yeah, so Nabila, you go first.
How hard is it to transfer from a Canadian university to an Ivy League school?
Well, transferring from one university to the other, I would say, becomes more difficult when we transfer when you're already at a university instead of applying to an Ivy League school immediately from high school. Because what happens is, from my experience, I find that the first year of university of any student is perhaps the most difficult year. So, as bright as you may be, your marks drop because you're acclimatizing yourself, you're accommodating yourself in a new environment, you're getting accustomed to the friends, the university,
Right.
the way of studying. And there is a marked difference between studying at a high school and studying at a university. For instance, at a high school, your parents help you, your teachers help you, and in some cases you are absolutely spoon-fed. Whereas in university, you're absolutely on your own.
On your own, yeah.
So the first year becomes quite a traumatic year, I believe. And marks are not what one would expect of an excellent student from high school to achieve in first year university. Many do, many do. So what happens is once your transcripts go down, once your scores go down,
Right.
then you find that the GPA transfer becomes very much more difficult. Whereas from high school, where you are a star student, your letters of recommendation are glorious, and at that point in time, you're at a high, is a time that we should apply to the university of our choice. And not to say that transfers are impossible. Many transfers have taken place, but it becomes slightly more demanding, slightly more challenging.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So yeah, just a quick question about, before we even think about the application process, so where should parents start thinking about, putting the plan into action? Because sometimes we get students, we catch them too late, grade 11, 12, right?
Yes.
And then sometimes it's quite early in the process. So where should we start? When should we start thinking about putting the plan into action?
Well, I would say that a student starts becoming serious in schooling from the grade 9 process. 7, 8, and 9, junior high, yes, you've got to move on from being somewhat laissez-faire and saying, you know what, we'll work, we'll play, we'll study. But as you get closer to high school, one has to get a bit more serious. And that is where I think we need to tighten up on our resumes. We need to tighten up on all extracurricular activity, because once you get to grade 11, the second semester, and grade 12, you have very, very little time for extracurricular activity. You have very little time for debating, quizzes, these things take up a lot of time. So as you go into high school, you find that the student has less and less time for extracurricular activity and has to focus more and more on the subjects so that to get high marks, because high marks is a prerequisite. You've got to have them.
Yeah.
Because that is one indication of what your scholastic and academic standings actually are. So that is where I think we need to start changing gears and start concentrating on subjects and academics rather than the extracurricular activity, which of course very essential. Voluntary service, very necessary to go into good universities after high school. These are necessary part of the application process. But a lot of these things need to be done at the lower classes, in junior high school. Because once you get into senior high school, that's where the demands are greater, and that's where I think the student feels the greatest pressure. So I would say that academics are prerequisite as you go on, all your voluntary service, extracurricular activity, and all the preparatory work for cultivating recommenders for your university has to be done at the initial level of senior high school. It's got to be done. The recommender needs to get to know you, because they will not be able to write a letter. And most recommenders are not very ready to write letters of recommendation unless they know the student very well. And actually that's how it should be. So I think we need to get known to our high school teachers, because letters of recommendation from teachers of social studies, very important, principals, very important, people in the general public, the professions, particularly lawyers, doctors, dentists, those are very essential. In some cases, church ministers give letters of recommendation. Those also count for a lot. So we need to, once you get into senior high school, you have a lot of work cultivating writers of letters of recommendations. You need to cultivate recommenders who now get to know you personally, so that they can quite justifiably write glorious letters of recommendation for you, which you need to get into good universities.
Yeah, and so another point for high school students, right? A lot of the ones I talk to, and even thinking back to when I was in high school, how do we sort of get them to think that these universities are actually possible to get into? Because it's sort of a mindset thing, right? They think that, going to a good school in the States or even a top university in Canada, it's tough. How do we get them to start thinking about,
Well, I think one of the greatest failings, probably on our part, is indicating that to a child, to your own children or to other children who are entering senior high school, is to say that some of the most wonderful universities in the world are too expensive for you. And I say to parents time and again, don't talk about money. We can borrow money. We can go to the bank and get money. But to get into particularly Ivy League schools, there's a arduous process that you've got to prepare yourself to get into these schools. And if you put money and dollars before preparing yourself and then saying, I don't have the money, so I should not prepare myself, that will be a great failing on our part. On all our part, not only on our parents, but on society. We should be able to guarantee our students that if you bring good marks, there are $93 billion in scholarship trust funds out there, and not every penny has been applied for. I have a book I was reading that says only 37% of those scholarships have been applied for. It is a fear in ourselves that we don't have the marks. And I meet students, I say, why have you only brought an average of 60s? And they said, I'm not going anywhere else.
Yeah.
I want to go to a college, I don't go to university, we don't have the money. I said, if I put $1 million check on the counter on the table right now, would you go to an Ivy League school? He says, yeah, sure. Because nobody has ever told me money is there. But if there are $93 billion in scholarship trust funds, the money has to be there. And I don't say those are very easy to get. But hundreds and thousands of students get scholarship funds every day. So probably they're not easy. but there is a very, very strong possibility that you would get scholarships. And in my experience, not all students got all the money from one scholarship trust fund. You have to go to various scholarship trust funds to get amounts of money. Some may give you 5,000, some may give you 10,000, some may give you, very rarely you'll get the full scholarship from one fund. So we have to, this whole post-secondary education funding is simple. It is a process that we need to follow and prepare to follow very early before getting into the university and getting into a bind.
Wow.
Money is there.
Money is there.
I have never seen a student that I have met in over 25, almost 30 years that has gotten admission into an Ivy League school and didn't go for the want of money. Because there are people, there are avenues that would say, you know what, Taheer, you're going to an Ivy League school, you know something, man, that's an achievement. We'll all rally together and get that money for you. You're going. That's it. Now, how often does a kid get into an Ivy League school?
True.
That
Yes,
we know.
yes.
So this is a community process.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of that saying that it takes a village to raise a child. It's a responsibility of society to see that all our students get the highest level of post-secondary education to prepare ourselves to face the future, to face the world. And society needs you. But if we give up early in the process, thinking that I don't have the money, I would say money shouldn't be the primary objective when you start up on this journey.
True.
I would say prepare yourself, the money will come.
So there are so many like there are so many private people who gives out the scholarship.
Absolutely.
So then, what do you think? How many should one like apply? Let's say 10 companies or 10 people or 15, or depends on how much you get.
No, I doubt whether any student at the first shot would get all the money from one
Of course,
source.
that's right. Yeah.
Of course not.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I'd say that, like I always say to a high school student, apply to 5 Canadian universities
5 Canadian.
and apply to 5 American universities. Which university? Ivy League.
Yeah.
So really I said, yeah. Because I don't have the marks, others have 99, I have 95. I said, many times marks are important, but many times it's the whole package that counts
True. Yeah.
for admissions.
Yeah.
Sometimes if your students haven't had the highest marks, they're at the finest universities. Maybe they have other attributes on their resume that is powerful.
True.
Now I know of students that I had met in the past. One student knew Indian classical dancing, went to a wonderful university.
Wow.
One student was top in debating, went to a wonderful university. Those things count to get you into a good school and get you the money to get there. And our ambition for our children should always be that they should go to the best universities in the world.
True.
But having said that, we must prepare our students,
Prepare.
give them the courage
To
bring the requisite ingredients
Yeah.
to get into a good university. It doesn't come easily.
Yeah.
And one of the things I find that is a handicap amongst our students, not bringing good marks, is that, you know what, we're not going to be able to afford a good university. I'll just get by, get a trade, and just earn a living and go. If we have the talent, if we have the capacity, if we have the ambition, we can really go places. Now, I'm not saying that every student will go to an Ivy League school. I'm not saying every student that applies will get into an Ivy League school. I mean, the odds are 1 to 20 apply and only one gets in.
Yeah.
But I am saying then if we try and reach the top of go to the moon, we will at least reach the top of the mountain. But our reach has to be very far, very ambitious, because it's once in a lifetime opportunity for our students to go to a good university and prepare themselves for life. Because with the population of the world increasing exponentially and places in universities shrinking, I think the world of tomorrow is not going to be an easy world. We need to be highly, highly qualified. And the communities, all the communities the students come from that I meet, their communities are prepared to help them. We are prepared to help them. Your parents are prepared to help them. Everybody is prepared to go the extra mile. But you've got to have the prerequisite qualifications.
True.
And the ambition to go to a top university. When you come out of there, you are prepared to face the challenges of the world. And you have a wonderful opportunity today to do that, particularly in a country like Canada, and the universities, finest universities in the world, in the United States and Canada, at your doorstep. I mean, when you think of some third world countries, only have one university for the entire country, maybe two.
Yeah.
And that's a daunting task for those students to get into their universities. So we have the world right open to us at our feet. And we've got all the help that we need, especially from student counselors, fellow students, volunteers in the community. Once you show your desire to get ahead, it's very simple.
So, Jalal, just
Yes.
a quick question. So now for the people who are listening who are currently in undergraduate programs across Canada, say they have the ambition to go to an Ivy League or a great school for their professional school, so the second degree, like med school, law school. So they're in the process of their undergraduate. What is the action plan there? Where do they start?
Well, the action plan, most of the students that I meet that are undergrad and undergrad degrees, not finished yet, often tell me that I want to finish the first degree and go out into the world and work. Now we know that the world is advancing and progressing at a phenomenal pace.
Yeah.
Now for us to get off for 2, 3, 4 years and then get back into education, it's not going to be a very easy task. I normally tell students the most that you stay out is 1 year, and not even that. Your transfer to some of the good universities should be seamless. Because what happens, places in universities are shrinking. Population of the world is growing exponentially. So I'm saying, take the opportunity you have as soon as possible. And go to the university of your choice, go to the college of your choice, where the subject that you yearn to embark upon is best provided and supplied and offered. Go there. Go wherever you want to go. But go and prepare yourself.
Wow.
And the plan of action that I've outlined basically tells you what the preparatory work entails. It's very, very simple. It's very simple actually. And I give talks to students, different communities at different levels. And I find that once you ignite that spark, that ambition in you to say, I'm going to embark upon the finest career at the finest universities in the world, this is not an impossibility. Absolutely within your grasp, absolutely possible. And I would say, why settle for anything less? Don't settle for anything less. Because the number of scholarships we have in North America, phenomenal. If you look at some of the third world countries, and less developed countries, underdeveloped countries, they don't have that kind of funding. Here particularly, $93 billion
Wow.
in scholarship trust funds. Only 37% until recently have been applied for. There is money waiting to be asked for. Just apply. But you can't just apply, you've got to get into the university of your choice, into the program of your choice. But don't put money first. Don't put your funding ahead of your ambition.
Wow, yes.
Apply, because I have seen over these many years, and I've met thousands of students, and I say, money should not be an impediment, because there are trust funds waiting to dish out money to you for the right kind of programs that you undertake, because all these trust funds are for different programs. And they are waiting to distribute this money, because that money over time becomes trust money. It has to be given out, otherwise it reverts back to its source.
Yeah.
Not the source, not the donor, but to the revenue agency. So they are very eager to give you the money, but you have to qualify to get the money from them, and they have prerequisites, and they have screening processes, and you have to satisfy these. But they are waiting to hand out money to the right students who pursue the right programs at the right universities. And this is what we need to pursue all the time. And don't give up. I think we should take up education to the highest degree possible. Because in North America,
It's getting tough and tough.
money aplenty. Got to have the right qualifications to get that money.
So the biggest thing is to qualify yourself as a
Ex-
student, either in
Exactly.
high school or an undergraduate.
Yeah.
Correct. Correct.
So, just for our listeners and our viewers, let's say if I want to go to the business university, so what will be my first step to find out which one, who gives out the money? So what do I do? What do I Google for it?
Oh no, you can say, I've got 30 boxes of scholarship information that I'm going to get distributed, as lying in my house. But you can Google scholarships. There are ample scholarships. Every high school that I know of and have spoken to give out to their students a list of scholarship information.
Wow. Okay.
The donors, the trust funds that give out money to where you want to go. But I have information that I can part with, there's no problem at all. But you can Google any scholarship trust fund for business, for medicine, for law, for dentistry. A whole list will come.
All this.
So,
Nabilah, yeah.
when should students start thinking about applying for these scholarships? Because it takes a lot of time to apply for these scholarships. So is it mostly in terms of high school and going to university during that time frame, or before that?
No, actually, I think your attention should be put on the application process into the university, because you have deadlines to meet.
Right.
Right. So once you get that done, you then go into the scholarships, and their deadlines, they all have deadlines. And I found that most of the deadlines for scholarship trust funds is basically February.
Okay.
By which time you know which university you're going to. You have a feel for your standings in terms of your applications, whether you're going to be accepted or not.
Okay.
You pretty well know. And then you apply for these scholarships from the scholarship trust funds before you miss the deadline.
Okay.
And now scholarship trust funds also have a process. Each scholarship trust fund has its own application process. Some have only a letter of application, some have application forms, some have just sending in a resume. So there are different requirements for different scholarship trust funds. But I can tell you one thing, and I assure you that these scholarship trust funds are sincere and eager to give their money to the right student that applies on time and comes to them for help. And that money is there, the universities are there, but many times our students are not there.
True.
You've got to marry all these various avenues and go to the finest. And it takes a lot of work. And It takes a village to raise a child. And I say the entire community, wherever you live, has to give you every piece of assistance you need to see that you fulfill your ambitions for society. I know you'll be a doctor or a lawyer or a dentist. In the final analysis, you're a member of a society and you become a very powerful contributing member of that society. I don't care where you live. And so I am saying that basic post-secondary education, and it's my quest, should become a human right. Any student on this planet, on the face of this earth, who qualifies himself or herself to go to a post-secondary education should face no impediment, should face no roadblocks to go there.
Yeah.
We should be ready to assist to see that they fulfill their ambitions, basically for their families and by extension for society. This is our ambition.
So Ameer bhai, of course, you meet like so many students every day. So then, what do you see the difference between like students these days? Because it's because of the social media, a lot of students are busy on social media. They don't do the way they used to. So then, what do you tell them?
Well, I say that good high marks is a basic prerequisite. No denying that fact. To get into a good university, high marks put your foot in the door.
True.
Then your resume, extracurricular activity, voluntary service, there are a whole mixed bag of things that go with it. But unless you have the high marks, you're not going to be able to put your foot in the door. You're not going to be able to block the door.
Wow.
Once you get in, then of course the process is quite understandably simple. Because if you have high marks, the pre-understanding is that you're good in everything else at your school.
True.
Your standings are wonderful.
Yeah.
And by going to good universities and pursuing post-secondary education brings a lot of pride to all of us. To the school that you come from, to the society, to the community you come from. And I have seen, by and large, that when a student embarks in post-secondary education, particularly at a very, very good university, that the entire community rallies behind them to see, when you got an admission, we'll see that you get there.
Yeah.
So in terms of applying to these universities, are you saying that they place the most amount of emphasis on grades compared to your volunteering and extracurriculars, and what are your thoughts on that?
No, grades are putting the foot in the door.
Okay.
If you have low 50s, A, you will not have the courage to apply, and B, initially, on somebody reading your transcripts or your marks, immediately begins to feel, well, this is not a diligent student. Just human nature. But when you have good marks and people see that, they feel that, he has potential. And we cannot afford to lose that potential.
Okay.
Not smaller communities, and neither the larger society cannot afford to lose that potential, because in a fast-moving world, we need qualified men and women to help us negotiate the world and negotiate life. And society depends on that. And I have found, by and large, any student who is ambitious to go ahead has found assistance from various quarters. Application process, funding process. There are funds that never been applied for. There are funds that people haven't qualified to apply for.
Wow.
And then they get untaken.
Yeah.
So a quick question. I know a common problem among high school students and even kids in undergraduate programs is that they don't know exactly what they want to study. So what is a good way, maybe through electives, or what is a good strategy for high school kids or even students in university to figure out what they want to study, or what kind of career they want to embark on?
You see, at the high school level, I think when students come to grade 12, when I meet them every day, is what did you want to do or what do you want to do? No, I haven't given it a thought. And I would say that it's probably a societal responsibility, but basically a responsibility of the student and the people around it, guidance counselors and the family, to start discussing the career of the student very early in entry of at least high school level, grade 10 level. This discussion must take place very seriously. I think at this point, the student has to make some very serious decisions on the application process, but more than the application process, is preparing oneself for the application process.
True.
And you got to see, high marks is a common standard by which people can judge you. I mean, there's no doubt about it. We have brilliant people in the world, that some of them didn't get high marks, but they were brilliant. But as the educational system functions, high marks is one of the indicators that you're a good student, that you're enthusiastic, you're ambitious. Without that, how is one supposed to say, yes, let's make an investment on the student?
True.
So we've got to show our mettle, and the world will come. The world will come and help you with open arms. But we've got to be prepared. We've got to be absolutely prepared to take up that journey, follow that journey with diligence, with enthusiasm, with the fervor, and say, if I want to go ahead and I show society that I want to go ahead, I will get all the assistance I need. And it's there. $93 billion in scholarship funds. I mean, that's no small amount.
No.
And
So, yeah, go ahead.
And a lot of it is just waiting to be applied for.
Just waiting to apply
Yeah.
for it. Yeah, but because there are students here, most of them, they, or like a lot of them, they go to the IB here, like IB course here. So does it help to go to the Ivy, like the Ivy League?
Well, the IB program, in my estimation, prepares the student basically for the first year of university life.
Right.
So the IB student has an edge on the ordinary grade 12 student.
Why is that?
Would you agree with that? Well, the IB curriculum is advanced.
Right. So
It's
that's where it.
quite enriched. It's an enriched process. And the belief is that the IB program sort of gives a cutting edge to a student who embarks on it. And that I would endorse. So what happens, those students who get into university in the first year
Yeah.
find it very easy to navigate through first year of university life, because their academic demands are not beyond their capacity. Whereas the non-IB
Yeah.
has to struggle harder
Harder.
to get in. But in my experience, high marks IB student or non-IB, high marks happen to be a prerequisite in my experience.
Yeah.
Because it indicates your mettle, it indicates what your standings are.
Nabil, anyone? Yeah.
Is there a preference in terms of IB? So if a student took IB and took the regular stream and they both had the same marks, would one student get preference over another?
Well,
Good question.
yeah, the university selections process, I'm not very familiar in the nitty-gritty part of it, but I find that a student who is an IB would be welcomed, but a student with the same marks, non-IB, is also highly valued, because all universities want fine students.
Right.
They want studious students. They want students will come there and do credit to the university in the years ahead.
Yeah.
So that is what they're looking for.
Mhm.
And both the processes supply this sort of requirement.
True.
If you do an IB,
Mm.
it's good for you because it makes university life that much easier
Easy.
for you, particularly in the first year.
First year, yeah. Good. Taheer?
Yeah, no, and I think the IB program, it's not just the content that you learn, but it's more so the habits, the the work ethic that it develops, which is why I'm sure you think that it helps in university, because it's those habits that are ingrained in you, and once you
Yes.
get to university, it makes it that much easier.
That's correct. I would agree with you. It instills a diligence in you of being an outstanding student. And that gives you a good head start. There's no doubt about it. It gives you a wonderful head start.
Mhm.
But not everybody can do that, because what happens if some students go into IB program, they falter in some of the subjects in which they were originally not very strong in.
Mhm.
They'll excel in the strong subjects, but they could fall back on the others.
Others.
And when I meet these students, I tell them do a partial IB.
Okay.
You can do a partial IB,
Yeah.
so that you're not pulled back completely
Mhm.
in the entire process of high school
Yeah.
preparation for university. And that can be done.
Wow.
Say if a student is good in say one subject, two subjects, do the IB in two subjects.
Mhm. So everybody, you were going to Dubai last year, and now you're going to Bangladesh as well. So then, what do you see the difference between students like in North America and to the Asia?
Well, I met students in Dubai past couple of years
Yeah.
in a row. They come from different parts of the world, as you know.
Yeah.
And you find that students strive to do very well.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens is they come from different backgrounds,
Right.
educationally, from different countries. And education in Dubai is not very cheap.
Mm-hmm.
So to prepare our children there, or the students there, takes a lot more for getting into good universities.
Yes.
Now there are universities there, and people are now striving to get into their local universities. But that also requires powerful preparatory work,
Right.
that requires the necessary qualifications to get into their universities as well. They are wonderful universities,
Mm-hmm.
but you've got to have the prerequisites to get in there.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of students that go from there to universities in Europe and the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
Now, what I would say is, when education is basically free
Mm-hmm.
here
Yeah.
up to senior high school level,
Right.
why not take advantage of
Right.
it?
Of course.
Yes, this is the point. And we have universities, I mean, I find it really astonishing that a student here would fall out of grade 12
Mm-hmm.
and say, I don't want to go to school. Whereas in countries where I've given talks in the past,
Yeah.
people crave to get enter the doors of a university.
Yeah.
And here, of course, everything is open to us,
Yeah. Yeah.
and only things we need the prerequisite to get into the university. And here in North America, it's not difficult, of course.
Mm-hmm.
It's not difficult. It's very easy.
Yeah.
So,
Taheer, any question?
Yeah.
No. So everybody, of course, because you said $93 billion is available. Let's say my marks is not that good, so I cannot get in. Or is it possible I can, do you think I can look for the loan? What are the advantages and what are the disadvantages?
oh no, well, there are different kinds of funding for post-secondary education.
Yeah.
There are scholarships, there are bursaries,
Yeah.
there are loans.
Yeah.
So you can opt for any one of those. But remember, loan is a loan.
Loan is, you have to
Yeah.
repay, yeah.
Yeah, scholarships and bursaries are free.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to qualify for those, most of these are scholarships and bursaries that we apply for.
Mm-hmm.
Now, loan, you have to go to the bank
Right.
to get a loan. These scholarships that are given to you are based on merit.
Mm-hmm.
Now the qualifying criteria are set by the Scholarship Trust Fund. They are looking for certain kind of student.
True.
So, I mean, you know, Jalal, that you apply to different scholarship trust funds, their basic requirements differ. Some may be looking for a scientific brain.
Yeah.
Some may be looking for somebody in drama and music. Somebody may be looking for a legal mind. So we have to apply, and I always say, apply to 5 universities locally, apply to 5 universities in the United States. Likewise, I say apply to 10 scholarship trust funds. They all may not give you the money,
Of course. Yeah.
but out of 10, at least one would.
Yeah.
And that one may not give you all the money
All
that you
the-
require.
yeah.
But the moment you get that one and put it on your resume, you are now a candidate
Yeah.
for applying elsewhere and saying, you know, this student has got a scholarship from there, must be a bright student, must be a deserving student. Of course, the other prerequisites need to be there, your marks, extracurricular activities, you know, all the rest of your school life
Yeah.
has to be there to comply.
But you have to apply, otherwise you won't get any.
No, why would anybody give you money
Yeah.
without applying?
Exactly. You have to apply.
Yeah, even in high school, you get this high school money for getting over 80%. If you don't apply for it, you don't get it.
Yeah.
It's there. It's a very simple form, but you get that scholarship.
Wow.
So the bottom line is, let's work diligently. Let's all of us work together to see all our children get the finest education in the world, if not in the country. And let's help them along. Let's hold their hand and say, you know what, we are with you. It's a daunting task. It's frightening sometimes. I meet students who says, you mean I should apply for a scholarship? I said, yeah. Oh, so that's not for me. You know, that's for Tariq and for Rain.
Yeah.
And I say, no, it's for you. Just apply. So there's that fear of applying. And yet there's so much money that goes untaken. People don't ask for it, don't take it, don't get it.
Yeah.
So I'm saying any student who's ambitious enough to obtain the finest education in the world to the nth degree, I'm saying there is money out there. For whatever your program is, that money is there.
Is there?
But you need to be diligent. You need to prepare yourself academically, educationally, and of course societally. That, you know, voluntary service is a prerequisite in many cases. Do all that and apply, the money will always come.
Inshallah. Inshallah.
Inshallah.
So, Ameer, you know, you've been doing these things for the last how many years?
Almost 30 years.
30 years? So you've been doing all this, you know, as a volunteer. You've been
Oh,
doing
no,
it for
absolutely.
volunteer.
Absolutely voluntary service.
Why? Why are you doing it for us? What do you get out of it?
Well, you know, if society is well prepared, well fed, well educated, knowledgeable, I'm safe. I mean, you know, we want society to be, we need to help each other to get where we want to go. And many of the students I meet, extremely bright students, but have always felt that money comes first. Money is essential, of course.
Yeah.
To go to university, you need the fees. You need to get there. But it's not the first and basic prerequisite. The prerequisite is your marks,
Yes.
is your academic standings, your ambition to become what you want to be. Ask, because people are there to help you. Your student counselors are at school to help you. Your teachers are there to help you.
Yeah.
And even within the community, whichever community you belong to, you will find that there are people who will assist you, they will hold your hand,
Yeah.
they will guide you.
We need more people like Ameer Keshavjee. More of them. I think it's going to be never, you know. Yeah, like, it won't be enough, you know.
Alhamdulillah.
We need more of you. And, you know, just the last message before you go. Nabila? Yeah.
Oh.
So how was the program? How did you like the program today?
Oh, I really enjoyed it. I think it was really informative for high school students, and hopefully they'll take that advice to heart.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Tahir?
Yeah, I think it's extremely valuable. So now, whether you're in high school, whether you're just going into high school, or even if you're an undergraduate student,
Yeah.
you have a plan of action, right? And hopefully, you can unlock that ambition, or have that spark that you talked about. It would make the world a better place, not only for you but for your family, and it's overall a very positive thing. So thank you so much for doing all this stuff.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, but thank you so much again.
My pleasure.
I think it was a fun, and it's gonna be, guys. It's gonna be on the YouTube as well. It's gonna be there forever. Whenever you guys want, you can go and check it out. It's on Facebook, and of course it's on Instagram as well. So go check it out. Keep it. You can save that video, so it will help you for your future, whatever you want to do with your kids. Like Amish Bhai said, $93 billion is available. If you don't apply, you won't get anything. Last message from you, please.
Well, I say work hard. Let's all hold hands and work together. The world is a global village.
Yeah.
We need to help each other and guide each other, because that will make the world a safer place,
Wow.
and we'll find that there'll be more happiness around.
Ameen. And you are off to Dubai next,
Yes, I'm going to Dubai.
and then from there
Well, from there, probably there's an invitation for me to go
to Bangladesh.
Bangladesh. But,
So it's all about these things.
just post-secondary education,
Oh, mashallah.
scholarships, and post-secondary institutions.
Well, you are in demand, Amir bhai.
No, not every little that we can all give to each other
Right.
makes each other's life that much easier.
Again, thank you so much, Amir bhai. It was fun, and it was a lot of good things. And inshallah, we'll get you back again next year, or maybe 6 months later on. But it was fun, and we wish you the safe journey. And inshallah, we'll see you when you come back. Thank you, Nabila. It was fun. Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much
Yeah.
for having me.
Thanks, Tahir.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome, buddy. And guys, okay, so this is our time to go, and Reese is watching as well. There are so many people are watching, bunch of people are watching. Thank you guys so much. Thanks for all your love and support we get every week. Next Tuesday, inshallah, 6:45, we're gonna join again with our Coffee with Jalal show, and then inshallah 8:15, it's gonna be Salaam Namaste Calgary with me and Salma ji. Inshallah, will be here that time. And until then, Khuda Hafiz, Yali Sat Sri Akal, Adab, and Salaam Alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Bye bye.